Hello, this is your teacher, Professor Nirmal Kumar Swain, Department of Library and Information Science, MD University, Rohtak, Haryana, India. So we are developing series of modules through these lectures for especially the researchers, especially those doing doctoral research, that is PhDs. So in our previous lecture we discussed about the role of data, and if ethical practices are not followed in maintaining or actual data handling, so then what kind of unethical practices are followed off, and eventually it made no contribution to the research world or to your academic development or to further to the nation also. So three kinds of data fraud, unethical practices we discussed in our previous, we highlighted. We'll discuss one by one. One is that data fraud. Data fraud, fraud meaning is that like on the without any basis you speak of something. Without any basis we speak of something. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen and you propagate. So fraud is defined in numerous ways. Data fraud is similarly, data frauds have wider denotations and both connotations, and that is without any data doesn't exist, but you speak of propagating something, provocating something, bringing out your pretentive research results on the basis of those data. So it can be data fraud. How data fraud is not good, and somehow they get success in doing this data fraud. Data fraud is first of all is unethical practice, which is immoral in research, and it should not happen. As I told you, they should be caught and punished by the. So how data fraud? Why data fraud rather? People do it, especially as I told you, in any kind of research, be it is doctoral research or any kind of funded research or writing out of curiosity. Suppose you are doing research, the best quality, the first and foremost quality of a researcher is that patience. Although intelligence, skill and all other things are very much required. So patience. You cannot arrive at a point or do research in a haphazard way, because you need to wait and watch. Maybe suppose you are thinking about something, and maybe the other way, by the morning you get up and you look at your own assumption or presumption, then maybe that is futile or that is not true. So the students, especially the novice, the youngsters, they are after maybe on the basis of how to conclude their research and getting it published, somehow published in different places, so that they would get a job, a good job. So maybe or they feel they don't have time. They don't spend much time to do their research. All these causes cumulatively create these data fraud activities. And some checkers are not there. Checkers means like someone should be there, that the guards to check their these practices. So that's why in Indian or in academic practices, you have been assigned one or two research supervisors or guides. We call it research guides. Research supervisors are supposed to guide in terms of looking at what kind of trend or activities a researcher is passing through, and what is good and what is bad, and whether someone is coming up with the false data. So to check those, to maintain a standard practice, the researcher plays a guarding role, checkers rather, that way. So these way, and it takes time to inculcating those moral, moral, ethical practices into their mind. Suppose you are involved and somehow get through, these immoral practices of putting data fraud. You may get your research, somehow you succeed in doing that research. Probably it will damage, it will hamper your future. You cannot be, you can't show your brevity in case of interviews, in case of the process, getting through jobs, or in and among while speaking of researchers presenting data before a panel of experts. So inculcating those ethical principles may take time, but this way we can restrict data fraud. And sometimes data fraud can be checked through the quality publications. In India is good, like we have been maintaining a standard list of publications each and every disciplines, like we have an international standard Scopus index journals, and in India we call it UGC listed journals, or these days we call it UGC care list journals. So some kind of data are maintained by the authorities. These are the set of journals you can publish, so that other journals and the predatory journals are outlisted, so that those predatory journals, they don't maintain a proper standard practice to the publications, so that so those standard publications like big publishing houses, Oxford University Press, CUP, Cambridge University Press, Sage, Springer, and then we have Springer, then you have Taylor and Francis, all these Emerald, all these big brands, they maintain a very standard practice. Their data frauds are restricted. Whether someone, when an iota of data suspicion is there, they have a different mechanism to control those, and they restrict, they debar the researchers. Never in their life they can publish. So these are the stringent ways to restrict data fraud. Again, clarifying what exactly data fraud is there. I cited an example like the reading habits of people of Haryana, or reading habits of students of MDU Rohtak. Suppose someone is conducting research and interested in publishing in Australia or in America or in different European countries, journals. Data fraud, like it never goes to the field or never conduct any kind of survey. So maybe a very concoction, a very composing data without nothing, nihilism, total nihilism, so that they suppose out of composition, like I visited district of Rohtak, district of Sonepat, all these are districts of states of Haryana. Then I conducted 3 colleges, name of colleges. I never visited those colleges. Okay, so never visited those colleges, and 100 people were reviewed. I visited thrice, so that in such a way, beautiful way, then probably a journal in Europe or in some other places, they find it very lucrative, very original kind of research. So that by the research, maybe the pro Haryana, like maybe the research findings say people are widely or well read, or you don't read anyway, whether the upper side or the downside, again it is research unethical practices rather is maintained and doesn't contribute. The fraud never stops here. How the frauds are furthered, is increased or stretched. If someone read somewhere conducting another research, and those researchers cite reading habits of the present fraud research, so again that is also maintained. So gradually, one, suppose unless and until we maintain this data fraud, we don't restrict these data frauds, though the data fraud will be injected very slowly, very invisibly to other parts of research, so that the data shows that people of Haryana, people of India are widely read, which is not true. Or other way also, people of Haryana or people of India don't read, but the other way may be possible. So these are the data fraud. Without data fraud is that is difference. I will tell you about data fabrication, data fraud. Data fraud is that you don't have any actual data, neither you visited the field, you need not, you didn't get any single survey about that, and you composition concocted out of nothing. So on the basis of which suits to your research, that is data fraud. Please, dear researchers, you are newcomers, don't indulge in this and have patience. Maybe you are not able to publish like your peer group, people in every 2-3 papers in a year, but maybe one paper at least in a year, research papers you are publishing. Maybe your research is stretched or maybe extended for another couple of months, your doctoral research, but never indulge in this. It will not only damage you as a researcher, it damages the research culture of that university, that discipline, and for that nation. So in next lecture we will discuss about data fabrication. Bye bye.